Now, when we're talking about the gut, and we're talking about the foods our kids eat, of course, we're all about kids in the kitchen and kids eating healthy foods. Do you tend to see like more challenges or more benefits with families with kids on the autism spectrum if they are trying to teach them to cook?
I think it's a combination of both, but
Okay.
I really see the importance of getting your kids in the kitchen because one, when they prepare their food, they're going to be proud of it. They are going to be like, oh, I made that. They are going to have this sense of pride in what they're making. And most likely, because they made it, that's going to encourage them to try foods that they may not currently try. A lot of kids, when we're dealing with the, spectrum disorders, they tend to be picky. They may not
Mhm.
have as wide a palate. So when you're getting them in the kitchen, you're cooking, you're getting them involved, they're more likely to try those foods that they may not normally want to try.
Sure. And then what about challenges? Like, are there things that parents should do as you're working with stuff like fire and sharp knives that would help kids on the autism spectrum like approach that in a safer way? That you anything you'd have to do differently than with a neural, what is it? I'm using the wrong word here. Neurotypical kid.
Yeah, yeah.
I know my words. I can do vocabulary.
I think it's going to depend on your child's skill level. If they're good, they can hold a pencil, they can write. They may be okay with a knife, and it's a matter of don't just get them in the kitchen and let them start chopping. Stand there, guide them, be a guide, be supportive. Some kids, it might need some help, holding their hand. It may be a very hands-on experience for you as the parent as well. But as they get older, they will have those skills, and hopefully, as you're working on their gut, they will get to a point where they are much more able to do it on their own.
Hmm. Is there, I've seen statistics that like, I think over 70% of kids on the autism spectrum are seen as picky or extremely picky. Do you know the mechanisms kind of behind that, why it's so hard for them to approach food?
I do.
Oh.
There's a couple of mechanisms, but one of the major things is that when our children are super picky, 9 times out of 10, it is because and 9 times out of 10, they want to eat comfort foods, macaroni and cheese,
Mhm.
bread, slices of cheese. They like the gluten and the dairy. And the reason why is that it binds to our opioid receptors. Just like you have people who are addicted to opioids all over the United States, same thing happens with our kids. Those foods, the gluten and the dairy, so the casomorphines and the glutamorphines, bind to those opioid receptors in the brain. They make us feel good. They feel so good. And for some kids, that can actually cause this opioid effect. They feel like, or you feel like they have brain fog. Maybe they're a little bit sleepy. They just want to eat that over and over because it's feeding that opioid effect in the brain. And that's one of the huge reasons why we have these children who are pretty picky eaters. And that's one of the reasons. What I find is once you start to remove those from the diet, those kids open up a little bit. They'll try a few more things.